if you grow a plant in a condition with high levels of synthetic chemistry, then you may get it to grow big, but you're unlikely to get it to grow well. I would say if you take somebody who's going to the gym and they're working out every day, or they're actually a farmer and they work in the fields. God forbid they actually they're working outside. Um, they may not have massive muscles, but they're going to be strong and they're going to be wiry and they're going to be in good shape. Now you can take somebody who does, some exercise, and you can jack them up on human growth hormone or steroids, and they're maybe going to get big muscles. It looks like they got big muscles, but their bones are weak, right? And they get all kinds of things that happen to them later in life because those muscles became large unnaturally because some synthetic thing was injected into their system to cause them to appear to be stronger, but actually there's major issues in their overall system function. So I would say what we can call quote unquote high nutrient conditions or synthetic chemistry, may cause things to grow bigger, but almost always causes them to grow less well.
The Biological Farming Roundtable podcast helps farmers explore innovative, low-input, regenerative and profitable farming systems. The Biological Farming Roundtable is sponsored by Nutrisoil, an award-winning biological liquid fertiliser made from a big worm farm. Nutrisoil's purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food. My name is Nikala Maddock. I work at Nutrisoil. I envisage a future where farmers are rewarded for producing nutrient-rich foods and consumers have this easily available to them.
Hello, today I'm interviewing Dan Kittredge, farmer, founder of the Bionutrient Association, and educator of the world's first Certificate-Level Masterclass in nutrient-dense food. Dan is leading the way in groundbreaking research in how we can measure and understand the quality of our food, linking this directly to how the food is grown. I'm not talking about chemical residue here, I'm talking about the medicinal quality of our food and the massive variation that exists within our food supply. This is a not to be missed episode for any farmer and anyone that eats food. I hope our listeners share this episode far and wide because this information has the potential, if acted upon, to reverse chronic disease, reward farmers who steward their land with the aim of growing quality food foremost, and reverse climate change. It's a huge subject, Dan. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I've really been looking forward to this. I've been watching your work for a while now. But let's start with you, Dan. So you are a farmer. Tell us about your farm and how you became founder of the Bionutrient Association.
I have a 15-acre farm in central Massachusetts in the U.S. Um, the majority of the income that I've made off that farm has come off about an acre. Uh, a lot of high value crops. I've got some hoop houses, mixed salad greens, mixed vegetables. Meat, whether it's chickens or beef as well. But yeah, primary income is fairly small acreage, and yeah. How did I get to become founder of the BFA? Let me see. I grew up on an organic farm myself, and my parents ran an organic farming organization for 30 years, and 35. They, yeah. So I grew up. I grew up in the movement in the community, um, and it was when I got married and tried to figure out how to make a living farming, which my parents had not done, and a lot of farmers struggle to do. That I realized that maybe organic was nice, but not the be all and end all. And that's when I started learning and going to conferences, courses, things like that. Acres USA was a community I tuned into first, which integrated wisdom from permaculture and biodynamics, and agroecology and quantum and conventional ag and indigenous perspectives, etc. So food web, whatever, all the different sort of streams of thought. And Yeah, when I was able to do that and sort of begin to see things through the lens of nature as opposed to through the lens of the different tribes of sustainable ag, um, all of a sudden my cost of production started going down and my economic viability went up and soil health went up and shelf life went up and flavor went up and um, quality of life went up. So I was like, I grew up on an organic farm. My parents were an organic farming organization, and I didn't know any of these things. And maybe other people don't either. And so I started talking about it. This was 2008 or so. Um, and Yeah, founded the organization formally in 2010, the mission to increase quality in the food supply, focusing on nutritional value of food as the objective, not um, uh, any specific lineage or personality or label. Really saying the quality of the food is the point, and let's focus on that, and learn from all the different streams of wisdom that are out there, not just be attached to one perspective or modality.
Mm. I have seen you speak at Grounded Australia. That's where we met.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the things that I realised is that when you started, there was no definition of what nutrient quality was in food. Do you want to talk about the nutrient density and what that means?
Yeah, well, I would say we still are actively working on that right now. When I first came across all these things and I heard about bricks, and the concept that you could squish a leaf and see relatively how healthy a plant was, and that connected to squishing the crop itself and determining how healthy it was, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I know I'd never heard about this. What's the word for this thing? And this was almost 20 years ago now, and yeah, there was no word for it. There was no word for the variation between the quality of this carrot and the quality of that carrot and the quality of this apple, the quality of that apple, etc. And so um, I was instrumental in helping to create that term that we are now using, nutrient density. That we just you got to have a word for it to have a conversation, and so we started talking about it. I didn't see any organization out there, any nonprofit or educational network or community actively talking about this conversation. Organic sort of assumed they were better, and permaculture was pretty sure they were better, and biodynamic knew they were better, and local was pretty sure they were better. But none of the groups really ever talked about it overtly, and definitely not in any kind of an empirical fashion. And kind of thought that all of us are better than all of them, which is, of course, actually ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, it's part of the process is actually even beginning to have a conversation, and so that's where we're at. Is now we've got it. Now we've got a word. Now we've been discussing it. Now we've been doing research around it for the last, I think, since 2017 is when we started really actually seriously trying to understand what the variations were in nutrient levels and what caused them, and building instruments to test it and stuff like that. And We've made a lot of progress. We've shown that variations are massive. We've shown that it looks like soil health is what is the primary causal factor for nutrient variation. So the better your soil health is, the higher the nutrient levels are, and the less well your soil is, lower nutrient levels are, which is kind of intuitive, but does not connect to local or organic or permaculture or regenerative, which may be uncomfortable for some people. Um, and Yeah, and now the active question, and we built meters. To I've got one right here. This is the one we released a couple of years ago. This is just a really simple, rudimentary handheld flash of light meter you can use to flashlight the carrot and get a reading back on your smartphone screen in real time through spectroscopy. So yeah, variations are massive. They connect to soil health. Meters can be built that can be at a consumer price point to actually assess that variation. And now the question is really, how do you define nutrient density? How do you technically define it? Um, and uh, So we're in process on that. We've been working on beef for the past couple of years. We're almost done. We're starting wheat here this year, and um, it's a process. It's a process, and our thought is if we can really seriously impair refine nutrient density, then um, we can build instruments to assess it, and we can have an open, honest conversation in the marketplace about that. So
Mm.
yeah,
It's
I'm not sure.
amazing work, Dan. I mean, so many farmers have been scrambling around trying to prove that their food has better nutrient quality so they can get a premium price. I know with wheat, they've been getting tests on just tissue tests, grinding up the wheat and a tissue test, and then trying to find the nutrient density that way. What type of testing are you actually doing at the Bionutrient Association?
It's complicated.
I know. I've been
uh,
on the
yeah,
database trying to make sense of it all. It's
yeah.
huge.
Um, well, yeah, we're looking at, oh, gosh, so hundreds of different nutrients in every crop, from elements to enzymes to vitamins to fatty acids to phenols and all, I mean, all kinds of different nutrients. We look at a sort of a complex microbiome assessment. So looking at all the bacteria and the archaea and all the other people that are in there, um, overlaying management um, information like how you prepared the soil, what your fertility program was, what the genetics were, soil type, epigenetics of the crop, human health trials. Um, so our thought is that nature has patterns that uh, can be understood through a scientific framework, and and um, really we want to understand what those are and let that be the guide for our definition of what quality is. So, um, yeah, it's expensive, it's complex, it rapidly gets into language that most people can't understand because it sounds like fancy words. But yeah, basically, rather than us say we know what good and bad are, our thought is let's do a deep um, look at all the different things that vary and let nature show us what looks like better and worse are. So, um, yeah,
There's just so many questions I have. I don't know in what order to ask. You said expensive. So let's talk about that. So you're a farmer, and the Bionutrient
yeah.
Association has been founded by yourself. Where does the money come from? It must have been huge.
Yeah. When we were just an educational organization and we were just doing workshops and courses and conferences and things like that, it was not really a problem because most of the money was coming from people, registering and attending and things like that. But setting up labs and engineering handheld meters and building apps and all the software and all the back end support and logistics has it's been many millions of dollars we've had to raise and spend over the past number of years now. Um, um, it mostly is coming through philanthropy. I mean, basically, we're an NGO, right? We're an educational organization. We're not a company, and everything we've been doing as far as research has been and will continue to be completely in the commons, open source, non-proprietary, not locked up, not black boxed, like open and free for everyone in the world to have access to. And so to do that kind of research means then you have to have funding that is not coming from investors. Because if you have an investor, then they want to control the outcome so they can profit off of it. So then that's what an investment is a return on investment. So um, yeah, I would say one of the biggest problems has been that because there is no, this is a new word, and there's no scientific literature. I mean, we've been starting to publish papers now, but there is no established a formal school of study, and then therefore granting, you know, agencies and research funds that are being directed by big, um, whether they're governmental agencies or any other research agencies. It's really been haphazard, it's been philanthropists and broad-minded people that can see the big picture individually. A lot of small dollar donations. There's been some companies that have been putting in, 10, 20, 50, 100,000 dollars, who get the big picture and see that, not only is that mission aligned with their company, but also, this is something they can do to help benefit the broader movement. So catch as catch can. Basically, our thought is to at least establish a basic definition of nutrient density in a crop is about $1 million. And how many crops are there? Wheat, oats, barley, rice, rye, beef, chicken, pork, turkey, lamb, um, apples, blueberries. You start to add up the crops, and there's a few tens of millions of dollars we need to actually get this job done. And so that's basically the limiting factor. Our thought is, once we've raised that money and used it, and effectively, if we got a $25 million check next week, we could have 25 crops defined in 2 years. And then once those crops are defined, developing meters that are able to test those crops is not that much more difficult. And Yeah, our thought is that's the lever, really. It's when you have the science done and you have the people who buy food able to actually honestly determine, like, this carrot is 80 out of 100, this carrot is 20 out of 100. I'm going to take the 80, I'm going to leave the 20 on the shelf. I'm going to tell my friends that this brand this week is better than that brand. So my friends will all buy this brand as well. And so it's getting the consumer pull through to begin to, cause the better stuff to leave the shelf and the worst stuff to stay on the shelf, which we think is going to be the incentive which drives the farmers to focus on quality instead of volume. Because right now the market pays you on volume, some basic aesthetic and other kind of metrics, but nutritional metrics are really not incentivized, right? You get a high test weight grain, you get a test that has more pounds per bushel, or um, that's nutritionally superior. That is a much higher nutritional value thing, and farmers who are doing that are not really getting the premiums for it. Um, and
No.
Let's change that. Let's decommoditize food. Let's have farmers not be price takers but price makers. Let them, those who are doing a good job, be able to say, to the market, okay, who wants my exceptional quality stuff and how much are you willing to pay for it? Because actually people are starting to fall apart, physiologically get sick. And our thought is, like, there's going to be some companies out there who want to say our crackers are better, our bread is better. Let's um here we can say it is, and you can know it is because we've done the science behind it. And then if they're going to pay the farmers, an extra 15%, that's nothing compared to the price of the loaf of bread. The wheat cost is minimal in relation to the retail cost. So getting a farmer a premium and then being able to make claims about being superior, I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody involved in that process.
Absolutely. I mean, change is scary, Dan. What you're talking about is huge, and it will affect not only farmers in a positive way, but it may affect farmers in a a bit of a threatening way, potentially. What's going to be the difference between someone who's growing in a drought and someone who's having a really good year? What's going to be the difference of variety? There's so many varying factors
Yeah.
that a farmer might feel a bit out of control about. Talk me through those factors and how farmers can feel secure, I guess, and I know you are, that you're on their side.
Well, um, whether it's a drought or flood, everybody in your county or area is experiencing it, right? It's not just unique to your farm. And um, the better soil health you have, the better resilience you have to make it through that climate imbalance, whatever it is. The more soil organic matter you've got, the better the biological system function is. The more well functioning your soil is, the better resilience you've got. Full stop. Period. Um, um, so it's just in farmers' best interests to have better soil health because we have these climate extremes happening, it seems like, with some regularity. Which is, I think, why a lot of the cutting edge insights for agronomy globally are coming out of Australia. I mean,
Oh,
why did permaculture come from Australia? Why is who was his name? Yeomans and the all the that all his work, and why is biodynamics at such a large scale? Why is organic at such a large scale? Why? I mean, I think because of Australia's ancient, worn, weathered soil. You actually need to work more in harmony with nature to have a shot of making it. And a lot of parts of the world are a little bit spoiled because their soils were in better shape. And you could say you guys are ahead of the curve because your soils are more worn out, so you've had to figure it out sooner. There's some brilliant people on the planet that are Australians. I was, when I was down there in December, it was like, oh my god, like, there's not that many people that live in Australia, but if you look at the number of brilliant agronomists and knowledgeable thought leaders, like, you're completely over sampled. Like, there's the ratio of, like, really, really brilliant people in the movement and the number of people in the country, like, average out over 8 billion people, and you get way more than your fair share of 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 insightful leaders. I think because you've got a difficult environment to work in, and so the rest of the world is catching up to you by wearing its lands out, and we understand that working well with nature can heal the environment as well. Yeah, genetics. I mean, the variety is one thing, but the health of the mother and the health of the grandmother plant, it's called epigenetics, is massively important. Um, there's all these nuances in the system, and that's really the essence of the course that I teach. Is like, guys, it's a multi-factor system. It's life we're dealing with. It's not just one thing here or one thing there. It's a whole living. It's a matrix of life, and the more well you understand that, and the more you can proactively engage with it, the better your resilience is, the lower your cost of production is, etc. So, um, we have agency. You can either say, "Poor me, I'm screwed," the world's horrible, blah blah blah, or you can say, "Look, I'm empowered. There's opportunities here. I'm going to learn, and it's exciting to learn, and it's fun to actually work with nature and be out there, and it's completely exhilarating, actually, when you start to really deepen your understanding and see all these nuances and see plants flourishing in a way that you hadn't seen them before. And I don't know, for me, it's a really gratifying process, sort of that dance with nature. And I think that the major thing is understanding that nature's in charge and we're not. And if we can shift our mindset to one of collaboration and symbiosis instead of one of control, that's where the magic starts to really happen. So, uh, yeah.
what about grown in high nutrient conditions? So plants varieties that are, grown to work with GMO, or plant varieties that are grown to work with high nutrient conditions compared to low nutrient conditions. You might not have that information in this data set. Is there anything you could talk about there?
Well, when we say high nutrient conditions, I think that's a misnomer. What you're talking about is high levels of fertilizer. If you grow a plant in a condition with high levels of synthetic chemistry, then you may get it to grow big, but you're unlikely to get it to grow well. I would say if you take somebody who's going to the gym and they're working out every day, or they're actually a farmer and they work in the fields. God forbid they actually they're working outside. Um, they may not have massive muscles, but they're going to be strong and they're going to be wiry and they're going to be in good shape. Now, you can take somebody who does, some exercise, and you can jack them up on human growth hormone or steroids, and they're maybe going to get big muscles. It looks like they got big muscles, but their bones are weak, right? And they get all kinds of things that happen to them later in life because those muscles became large unnaturally because some synthetic thing was injected into their system to cause them to appear to be stronger, but actually there's major issues in their overall system function. So I would say what we can call quote unquote high nutrient conditions or synthetic chemistry, you know, may cause things to grow bigger, but almost always causes them to grow less well, lower nutrient levels, etc. Um, that being said, my experience as a farmer and a lot of farmers I know who are really doing this well are able to equal or exceed the yield levels of farmers using lots of synthetic chemistry, fertilizers, naturally. So you can accomplish high yields of high quality. It is possible to have both, but only when you have a balanced nutritional level coming from a well functioning microbiome. Are the nutrients coming from the soil, from life, or are they coming from a bag? Um, and so, yeah, I would argue that one of the best ways to destroy soil and to cause plants to be susceptible to infestation and disease and to spend unnecessary money to profit big companies who actually have an incentive to sell you stuff and not your well-being is to add fertilizer, right? That's a great way to destroy soil carbon, to kill soil life, to make sickly plants that are susceptible to infestation and disease. It's really is it's great business for agribusiness. It's just not great business for farmers or soil health or eaters or um, ecosystem function or anything like that.
So is this information that you're being able to see in your data set?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're measuring not only nutrients, so micro and macronutrients. You're measuring all of these other factors. I don't know if you call them non-nutrient factors. So things like antioxidants,
Yeah.
polyphenols. Could
Yeah.
you explain to me what both of those things are, because they're not talked about as commonly, and the importance of them compared to nutrients in this telling factor of nutrient density.
Yeah. So, what do we call nutrition, and what do we call not nutrition? All these things are like the science. In the last 30 or 40 or 50 years has proceeded forward a lot, and the language we use for it is still stuck 80 years ago. And so, um, it really is true that a lot of these things, like polyphenols and terpenoids and alkaloids and antioxidants and all kinds of fancy sounding words we don't really know what they mean, are the things that correlate with health. So the things that we call nutrients, or that the are commonly referred to as nutrients that you see in the back of a package of food, are the things that have been understood that if you don't have them, you're dead. So you need some basic stuff to not be dead. Great. Do I want to be not dead, or do I want to be healthy? There's a big difference between not dead and flourishing. And there are some basic things that must be present for you to be alive. And it's great. Okay, we should all have those things. But um, if you want to be actually flourishing and healthy and vibrant and capable and functional, you need to have a bunch of these other things like flavor. Um, and a lot of what these things are, what we experience these things called polyphenols and terpenoids and alkaloids as, like as animals, we experience them as flavor. So when your tomato has flavor, it's got way more stuff in it, way more nutrients in it than one that is just sort of there on the shelf and looking kind of dull and definitely tasting kind of empty, right? So there is massive nutrient variation in food. We know that from our bodies, which are very sophisticated and evolved to discern these things. Most of what we have available to us currently on the supermarket shelf is quite low in relationship to what it could be. Um, and so, yeah, our thought is like, actually, children know better. Like, children are animals. They have these sophisticated nutrient monitoring systems, just like, you know, a cow and a goat does. It's called a nose and a tongue. And we try to feed a child a carrot that doesn't have a lot of nutrition. They spit it out because it's not particularly good. in the same way a goat will do. It'll walk right by, or a cow will walk right by certain things like nah, meh. Like it looks like great grass. The cow's like, yeah, not so interested. I'm gonna go over here. Because there is massive nutrient variation, and just because it's a carrot doesn't mean it's great. And so, yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out is, you know, within carrots, what is exceptional, what is pretty crappy, and what's the variation. And within beef, within milk, within rice, all crops, there is massive nutrient variation in all crops, all foods. And that's not the way the government looks at it. That's not the way industry looks at it. Everybody, the dominant system assumes things are all uniform. They're not. They're not. They're not at all uniform. And yet that's the way the whole system of food industry is treating it. And yeah. So we're just trying to create a new, build the science around this fact so that we can have a different story to tell, and we can support people in doing things that are better for themselves, which also equals being better for the soil and the environment. Yeah.
I think it's so, I don't know, beautiful or remarkable that the soil and food are just so similar as a soil and humans, how these things function. So very much in soil health, it's the same. If a plant doesn't have these secondary metabolites, it's going to be susceptible to pests and diseases. You're saying that's exactly the same for humans with these antioxidants and polyphenols and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, why is it why is it that when there's a cold going around, some people get it and are knocked out for a week and a half, and some people get a sniffle and then like keep going? Why is it that when there's a mildew going around, some fields get totally taken out and some fields get barely have anything happen at all? Because of the underlying health status of the human or the plant. It's called an immune system. It connects directly with the level of these compounds that correlate with vigor and vitality and flourishing. Um, the healthier you are, the more resilient you are. The healthier your plants are, the more resilient they are. This idea that like the presence of a disease means my crops are going to crash is ignorant. It's ignorant. I mean, all farmers have seen that happen when one field things seem to do just fine, another field things get totally taken out. Their neighbor's field things get taken out, their field things are fine, or the other way around. their kids get sick and the neighbor kids don't get sick. Like it's not that there's the the disease is choosing one and ignoring the other. It's that one has a healthy immune system and the other one doesn't. And that connects massively to what you build your body out of, your level of health, what the plant builds its body out of, right? These are all really simple, obvious things that are kind of common sense, and it doesn't take anybody's being a rocket scientist to say duh, that makes a lot of sense. But for some reason it's not part of the conversation. There's all these assumptions that people are, like everybody repeats certain things over and over again. They're like, it's like the what is it, the boy who what was it, the emperor's not wearing any clothes, like, and the boy was like, hey, emperor's not wearing any clothes. And everybody was like, actually, yes, yes. But I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to say that. Well, I wasn't going to say that. I don't want to be the person who said it. Like, I feel like I'm the boy who said the emperor's not wearing any clothes. I'm like, guys, look, it's obvious. I was like, yeah, it is obvious. Well, let's just deal with it then. Let's not stop pretending it's not reality. Let's deal with it. So,
Well, I think that's the remarkable part of what you've done is that we're all saying there was a problem. We're all saying that this food is more premium because I'm growing it with healthier soil, but no one really had that information. And this is what you're building. And I've had a bit of a play on the database. Like there's so much information because there's drop down menus you can choose from. And
yeah,
what I did find, I'll just look at the blueberry because that's, it was the first one there and easiest to look at. Um, the polyphenols in one blueberry was 80 per 100 grams, compared to the polyphenols in another blueberry, which was grown in a different way, which was 566 per 100 grams. And then the antioxidants in the farming system prior was 5,500, And then the antioxidants in the second growing system, where the polyphenols were higher, was 43,700. Like, these are huge differences in
Yeah.
how this food is grown
Huge differences in what's in the food.
and what's in the outcome. Absolutely. The quality of the food in how this food is grown.
It's massive. It's massive. It's, 20 times or 40 times different. Like, you'd have to eat 40 of these to get as much as if you ate in one of those, or 20 of these to get as much as if you ate in one of those. It's not small. It's not 2% or 5%. It's categorically different. If you eat a pint of these blueberries, you're going to have a massive beneficial nutritional impact versus a pint of those blueberries, which is going to be meh. Like, antioxidants, these are things that are like, polyphenol, these are things that correlate with reversing disease, being disease resistant, flavor, shelf life, like vigor. Like, oh, this is $2.99 a pint and this is $3.50 a pint. Oh, I'm going to go for $2.99. Well, if 350 is 20 times more nutritious and it tastes a lot better, I think maybe it's worth the extra 50 cents, you know. But right now we think all blueberries are uniform, and organic maybe has less chemicals. Okay, so maybe that's worth something. um but but yeah, and the reality is that almost everything we found, organic or not organic, is relatively low in relationship to what it could be. So we found these big variations between high and low, but we also found that the vast majority of the samples are low in relationship to what's possible. There's almost no farmers doing a really good job. And that's the thing. How do you actually do a good job? And what is a good job? And that's what I'm doing this course series on, this certificate course in nutrient density, crop production, food production, is, can you actually produce excellent quality? You don't get a certificate unless you actually do it. You can go to the course, take the 4 days, great. Hopefully you'll learn something. You don't get a certificate from attending. You get a certificate from actually being able to work with nature well enough to get the outcome of excellent. And if that takes you 3 years, fine. You get your certificate after 3 years. You share that process. You openly share with anybody who wants to see. Like, this whole process is about us collectively raising the bar and getting to a point where we're actually accomplishing excellent, because almost no one's doing it. With all the talk about regenerative, about biodynamic, about permaculture, about organic, about local, about, agroecological, and all the fancy words, and everybody's got a new word for it. That old fashioned refractometer, it's almost 200 years old. Get a refractometer out and test the quality of the crop you're producing. And if you're doing excellent, I want to hear about it. You're probably not.
Mhm.
Might be accomplishing good. Most people are accomplishing average. And that's the organic people and the permaculturalists and the regenerative people and the local people are all doing good. There's is well, average, poor, average, good, excellent. It's usually in that average to good range is where most people are. Excellent's not happening. And that's where you get that extra 10 times of these nutrient levels. It's a whole nother level of capacity, and most of us aren't doing it. And most people don't want to talk about it because they're feeling proud of themselves. I'm a permaculturalist. I'm regenerative. You can say it. You can say it all you want. But what are you? But are you? Are you actually accomplishing excellent caliber of performance? Um, Most of us aren't.
Let's talk about this course, because I didn't know that. I thought, great, certificate level. I've had a look at the all of the subjects in the course. I think some of them are like, it certainly goes through all of the standard things. There's some out there things in there as well. So what did I see? I saw paramagnetic things in there, and I saw, oh, what was it? It was talking about, I won't say how you put it, but the business and the medical industry,
Mhm.
and changing, that, like, there's huge subjects in there, as well as the hands-on how to do that.
I talk
Um,
about consciousness and intention and all that kind of stuff too, which I think is a big part of the puzzle.
Yes. Tell me,
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Uh, are you a mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do they say about dogs and children? You can't fool them. Like how you engage a child, what the energy is with which you engage that baby has a massive impact on whether it cries or not. Um, the way you engage your plants has a massive impact on how they do. They're not just pieces of like plastic that you're manufacturing in a factory. They're actually sentient beings. The earth, nature is alive. Like we have to get into this understanding that we're dealing with a beautiful, amazing, living reality, and our state of heart and mind and being is massively important. And we can't just go and act like it's a factory floor and everything's a piece of machinery, and it doesn't matter whether we're pissed or whatever is going on in our heart. Like we're dealing with life here, and if you're gentle and loving and caring and sensitive, then all kinds of things come through, and all these nuances actually that are massively important you're able to dial into and implement. It's a living system. It's life. It's how do you treat someone you love? Sensitively, thoughtfully, attentively. You see how they're doing and you respond accordingly, right? Your farm it's alive, and you have and it's that the green thumb is just being sensitive and nuanced. And like, let's talk about it, let's deal with it, let's begin to process it. And again, like most people deep down inside have lots of really pretty profound thoughts about the nature of reality, but don't feel safe talking about it. So fine, you sit in the classroom and I'll start talking about it, but maybe some things that I say can help support a deeper process. So yeah. Lots of things I cover, all kinds of things. I go on all kinds of rambles. Most people have a good time.
Oh, it sounds amazing. It sounds absolutely amazing. So, what you're saying is if a farmer is stressed and maybe having family succession issues or anything like that, even though they're working really hard and they're doing all of the right things to increase the soil, the health of their soil, that could be impacting their production.
When you're stressed, you're not in a place to notice the subtle things which empower you to do the right things. So you can go check the boxes. I can kneel down and pray every Sunday morning and do my 5 Hail Marys, but that doesn't mean I've got a living relationship with God, right? You can go through the motions of being a regenerative farmer and still not have success because you are just going through the motions. You are just checking the boxes, but you're in this, and your head was somewhere else. Your emotions were over here, and you weren't actually presently co-creating with nature. It's all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world, I think, is, I mean, it's one of the biggest X factors. Biggest X factors is your state of being, state of mind, state of heart. Um, And so I don't talk about that till the sort of I get farther along in the course, because there's plenty of physical plane things to discuss, like boron and cobalt and inoculation, and there's a bunch of really powerful little tricks and little things you can get, like 1 pound of this per acre and $5 per ton of seed for this, and like there's a bunch of really really powerful things that maybe you've missed. Maybe you are doing 80% of the right things, but there's a couple things you're missing out on. So we start with that kind of stuff, but I'm pretty strongly of the opinion that yeah, it's a living system, and the more sensitively you're engaging it, the more deeply you are engaging it, and actually the more fulfilling it is as well. If you wanted to actually be living a life that is gratifying, not just stressed and going through the motions. Like, what are we doing here in the first place? Why are we farming in the first place? or gardening or anything. What's the whole point of life? What are we what are we doing here?
Oh, I'd love to ask you that question, Dan, but I won't because I feel like we'll go so off track. But you're absolutely
We're trying to
right.
get done in an hour. We might run out of time.
I
Yeah, but
know. I
I will
know.
definitely go into that when during the course as part of the conversation. Is like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here? Yeah, why?
So
Yeah.
people will take their soil tests, their tissue tests. You'll talk about their whole farming system. What will get them the certificate in the end? What do they need to prove to get that certificate?
They need to accomplish an excellent bricks reading on 5 different crops
Bricks. Okay.
for the time being until we've got a better nutrient density definition. Excellent on bricks is the target.
Yeah.
Excellent. The, the bricks chart is something that a lot of people have access to. That sort of, there's a chart which says for 50 different crops, this is poor, average, good, and excellent. These are the numbers to be targeting. And for carrots, it's different than cucumbers, different than tomatoes, different than wheat, etc. And so, um, yeah, the question is, what is an empirical definition of quality? And the biodynamic people have chromatography, which I think is also very, very interesting, and I'm trying to figure out how to integrate chromatography into it. But until we've got a definition of nutrient density that's well established, the Brix refractometer is the most well established one we've got right now. That's a number, that's an actual empirical number. And so, you know, it's one thing to like take a test and fill out the forms and say, get 9 questions right out of 10 and say, okay, you got the questions right. But like the point is we're trying to work with nature, and how do you have nature give you the grade? Um, and that's my thought is it's not my certificate to give, it's nature's certificate to give. Let's, what's the way in which we can have, a standard that is respecting nature as like, this is her approval. You've succeeded in doing a good job once on 5 crops. Good luck. Bring it on. And the part of the process is everything you have to document all your practices, all your results, all your soil reports, your tissue tests, your plant sap analysis, your fertility programs, what other things you did. So that if we have 50 people in a bioregion that are taking this course and they all are able to get excellent on 5 crops, then we have a massive amount of information that everybody else in that bioregion can forever and ever have going forward about how to do a good job. Right? It's all about being open source. It's all about being in the collective. Like if you think you're on the cutting edge, if you think you're good, like let's have a challenge and let's have you leave a legacy of actually showing how to do it in your area, because every part of the world is different. Every soil type is different. Every climate zone is different. And if we can have local leaders everywhere in the planet, raising the bar, getting to the point of accomplishing success, and then having that lineage of insight following on, then you don't need to bring some American in to give a course down the road. Then you've got local people who we can see, these people have shown that they've got the capacity. So you go ask them, right? Go ask these local people who know who have shown that they can do it. And what are the barriers and what are the issues? And every area is different. So if we share and learn together, what do they say? If you're a farmer, you get 40 seasons, to master the art of farming. Well, if you got 50 people you're working with and each one is working on 5 different crops, then you got 250 seasons worth of insight every year to help learn. And within a couple of years, everybody's knowledge base and skill set could be higher. And that's the idea, is let's all get to a higher level of function, because we all actually deep down inside know that while we may be doing decently well, probably a lot better is possible. So who wants to go on that ride? Who wants to be part of that conversation? Who's willing to be humble to engage that process? And that, yeah, that's the thing.
Amazing. It sounds just fantastic. And we'll have all of those dates and places. I can see you're in most states in Australia in April this year. So it's not far away. We'll have all of that information in the notes.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's dankittredge.com is the website, and it's a two-part. So there's 2 days in the fall and 2 days in the spring, and we do that. So the first 2 days are going to be in April, and then the second 2 days will be in September of 2025. Yeah.
So, Dan, you have so much information already. I mean, what is your interpretation of what is producing the best quality food? Is it cover crops? Is it non-synthetic fertilizers? Is it compost? What is it? Can you give a summary of Dan Kittredge's idea? I know. I mean, this is huge.
Of what the things are that correlate with
With
healthy
high
plants.
nutrient density, how do we grow this high nutrient dense food?
Um, yeah. Well, there's a. I mean, the core of the course is I call it. I've called it principles of biological systems. So, what how have plants grown for 400 plus million years? Like, how has nature been doing it for a really long time? And effectively, it's not so much about the crop, it's about the microbiome. It's about the microbes that are the bottom of the food chain, because the plant's the middle of the food chain. The animal's the top, the plant's the middle, the microbes are the bottom. So you can't have a healthy, you can't put the top of the pyramid until you got the middle of the pyramid. You can't build the middle of the pyramid until you get the bottom of the pyramid. So ignore whether it's an apple or a cucumber or wheat or echinacea. It's actually pretty much irrelevant what crop you're talking about. What's relevant is, do you have the environment for the bottom of the food chain to flourish? The microbes. And they need air to breathe. So if you've got subsoil compaction, that shuts things down. They need water to drink. So if the soils dry out, that shuts things down. They need food to eat. So if you don't have green things growing or soil cover, that shuts things down. They need minerals to build their bodies out of. So if you got everything except for boron and cobalt, well, too bad, you need a bunch of different minerals. All the different microbes have to be there. So you need a full spectrum of microbes to be present. Um, yeah, I mean, it's all these nuances, but basically, it's just maintaining an environment where life has what she needs to function. And so you have to proactively manage the ecosystem in such a fashion as that these basic environmental conditions are present, and then go take a nap. Um, I mean, polycultures are nature's pattern. Basically, I mean, I keep going back to during the course, like, how does nature do it? How does nature do it? And if you're doing things that are in violation of nature, you're violating nature. If nature's your mother and you're violating her, I mean, I don't want to be too visceral, but like, there's a lot of things we do which are actually deeply destructive. And just because everyone else does them, and because that's how it's been done for the past number of decades, does not make it the right way to do it. And there's many examples of people operating on massive scale doing an amazing job, right? Polycultures, multiple species growing together. You can do a 2,000 acres of wheat with a few other things in there and just get a different head and actually double your income per hectare, you know, and have all the benefits of a polyculture if you're willing to get out of this monoculture is the only way to think about it box. So we have to be willing to question our assumptions, and the data is there, the science is there, the other people who are leading and showing how to do it on any of these pieces are there. It's just about integrating it. All the streams of insight are already there. There's no really new information. It's just about integrating it and actually identifying our own blind spots, and being willing to face them and address them. And like, if you don't want to, well, understand that's going to cause 15-20% of yield loss or function loss. And if you want to keep taking 3 or 4, 15-20% hits, then you're going to be down to 40%, which is where most people are. So, but if you identify those two or three things you could do differently, all of a sudden, bam, you're at the very top of the continuum, and you can demand, a price premium for quality premium, and your cost of production is probably going to be lower, economic viability be higher, ecosystem function will be better. but we've all got those blind spots. We've all got those blind spots, and it's sort of walking you through. And it's not like I'm consulting for anyone and saying and walking them through their farm and saying, okay, do this differently. It's more like I'm, you know, having a deeper conversation, and your responsibility is to listen. And when you have that like strong tug, like, yes, this is the thing I need to deal with, then that's the thing you go and deal with, right? So, or three different things. Yeah. But
Um, this is where I'm going to disagree with you, Dan. You said there's no new information. You have developed a database of so much new information for us. Who, why isn't the government doing anything about this? What are they looking at? Are they contacting you? Um, where is this information sitting, and who's making change from this information?
not many.
Why?
Um, because we haven't built a structure that supports people and profiting from it yet. Because money drives the world, and because the way the system is set up is to have money work a different way, is for the profits to go to agribusiness and the farmers to, be suckers. And what do they say? Farmers are they pay they pay retail and sell wholesale, right? Like, the whole game is one where it's, I mean, all the subsidy schemes and everything else, all the insurance schemes, it's globally is set up effectively to drive money to companies selling farmers stuff. And actually, farmers don't need much stuff. Actually, when you work with nature, you don't need many things. You need some machinery to get the jobs done, but like all the inputs, like when nature's got what she needs, like you don't need the inputs anymore, and we can argue this necessariness of scale or whatever, but um, yeah, I don't think anything's going to change until we have, at least on significant scale, until we have people who buy food, who have families, who care about their health, able to make intelligent decisions based on quality about the things that they have to choose from in front of themselves on the shelf at the store. Like, I think when we actually have the meters built because we've got the nutrient density defined, and the consumers begin to start pulling the good stuff and leaving the bad stuff, I think that's when things are going to change, because money drives the world, and all the good ideas in the world don't matter if the economic system is set up in a different fashion.
And
So we have to go directly at that money lever and shift it. And I think that's what's going to change things. I don't think anything. Maybe you can hope that humanity will come together and collaborate for the greater good, and truth and honesty will win over bureaucracy and profit and selfishness. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. Um, so yeah,
so where you're going, Dan, is this bionutrient meter. People will be walking into supermarkets and they can test the different carrots available, and then demand will buy all of the carrots that are higher in nutrient quality, probably at the same price. But then demand only those. So the food that is of less quality will be left there.
that's the
That's
idea.
really what you're looking at doing.
If there's three brands of carrots, or five kinds of apples, or two choices of steak, or three jugs of milk to choose from, and most people in most stores, at least in the West, whatever, have a few choices, right? And if you've got one person in 100 who's got a meter, actually, the reality is, like, the cameras in our phones are probably good enough already. So you don't have to actually have a meter. You just have to have an app. Like, just get the app, um, and then you can go boop, boop, flash a light, boop, boop, flash a light, boop, boop, flash a light, and actually read which ones are better, which ones are worse. You can take that information and bring home the good one and leave the bad ones. And B, you can upload that onto Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and whatever the hell else you want to. Um, and tell your friends this week, Bunny Love is better, Cal Organic is worse. I mean, I don't know what your brands of carrots are in Australia, but that's the idea, is that we the people, for our own personal self-interest, like we want our children to not be sick, and our bodies are starting to function not as well as we'd like them to, and we actually would like to eat fruits and vegetables, but if they tasted good, we'd actually be more likely to eat them too. um, Start making decisions that are selfishly better for us, based on honest, true information. I think that's our strategy. That's the vision. That's when things will change. Um, and in the meantime, it would be good to figure out how to do an excellent job, because most farmers aren't. Because that's I mean, the data we've collected is that most of us, organic and no till and regenerative and everything else is like still 30 out of 100, 40 out of 100. You get a couple good ones. A very small percentage of people are in that excellent scale, and almost everybody's not. We're actually, most of us, not doing anywhere near as good a job as we could. And so it's one thing to do the science and figure out, how to build the meters. It's another thing to help the farmers understand how to do a good job, because you
Yeah.
don't really want to be embarrassed in 2 or 3 years when the meters come out. Like, no one really wants to be caught with their pants down, right? Like, yeah, really. So, like, is there some way we can sort of like yes and have it be a
It is.
peaceful, supportive process, because it is disruptive and it is threatening and it is the kind of thing that you don't really necessarily want the answers to, except you really do, but you don't really, and you got to go through that process of learning and growth, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this it could be world changing if this works, and I really hope it
And
does, and I know the world needs it. Has there been any type of discrediting your your information? Like, has there been anyone coming and saying this isn't believable, this isn't good science, anything like that?
zero.
They're not listening at all.
Everybody who's listening is like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
true. I mean, we got plenty of hard scientists and big multinational corporations and people that work for governmental agencies and all kinds of quote unquote serious people who've looked at it and said yes,
they're all agreeing.
and
Yeah,
in fact saying go, go, go. And I'm like, who wants to help? This thing costs money, and we're a small NGO. Like, who wants to be part of the project? And was like, go, go, go. And I'm like, yeah.
it's, it's amazing that it took a farmer to pull this together. That's what's just so amazing.
And still, after 18 years of, since I created the word, and 15 years since the organization's been around, like, I can't point out any organization anywhere on the planet who's doing something similar, or any big network that's on side and like throwing its shoulder to the wheel or
Mm.
anything. It's flabbergasting. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's true, and I'm pretty sure it's in our mutual best interest, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there praying. There's a lot of people out there praying for us, and a lot of amazing word of mouth, people who get it and are just like absolutely talking it up and excited and sharing. So we got tons of bottom up support, bottom up grassroots word of mouth, which is the most valuable kind, right? You don't really want any of the rest of the kind. You want the real people.
Yeah.
But we all need to learn together, and we got a lot of learning to do. So, um, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a more positive story than banning glyphosate, isn't it? I mean that you see there's life threats on people that are trying to ban glyphosate. You get on the internet, you talk about glyphosate, and you're trolled. But this information it's undeniable.
I mean, it's the thing is, it's like it's mostly intuitive. It's like mostly
Yeah,
common sense. Like when you start talking about it, I mean, everybody's got deep down inside basic common sense. And you say some of these things, and people are like, yeah, that I think that's true. You say something else, and like, yeah, I think that's true also. And there's not really anything to do about it, but like, it's like because we all actually are wired with intuition to discern deep things, based on our inner knowing. Like, this is part of the consciousness part. Like, deal with it. We've all got a heart. We have these knowings that we experience deep inside of us that are real. Like, I don't know, it's part of who we are. And yeah, anyway, I don't want to digress, but um
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and I think
absolutely.
and in many cases, like, this is part of it, is like, I'm happy to work with agribusiness. I'm happy to work with big multinational corporations. I'm happy to work with governmental agencies. Like, multinational corporations, like, okay, you're selling food. Okay, you want first mover advantage, straighten up your supply chain. You can make claims and you'll make more money. Like, it doesn't have to be like small good big bad. It doesn't it's that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of small organic farmers doing a really crappy job from a nutritional standpoint, right? If you look at their soil health and you look at the nutrient levels in their crops, they're not impressive. And there's a bunch of big farmers who are not organic who are doing a good job because they're sensitive and thoughtful and deep, lovers of their land. And so we, like, all these, like, religious, I'm a soil food Weber and you're a, an Albrechter, and we're, you know enemies. Like, no, not true. Yeah.
So the
And
bionutrient meter,
yeah, beta.
tell me, where is that at? How far away is it? And how much money do you need to really get this thing happening?
You can't have a meter that tests nutrient density until you've defined what nutrient density is.
Okay, so you're not there yet.
There's I could I mean, I've got 3 meters sitting right here in front of me. Like, there's hundreds of meters. You can't The meter can't test nutrient density until you've defined what nutrient density is. Like, before Celsius said 0 is when water freezes and 100 is where water boils, and everything in between is 1% of the difference, you couldn't make a Celsius thermometer. Celsius had to first develop a definition of what 1 degree was before you could make a thermometer that tested 1 degree. Before Richter said this much vibration is, 2 on my scale, and 10 times that much is 3 on my scale, you couldn't make a seismometer that measured an earthquake. Until we define nutrient density, you can't build a meter that tests it, right? So where we're stuck right now is not in a lack of having meters. There's plenty of handheld meters out there. Like I said, the the camera on your phone is good enough to do it. We don't need actually other meters. We just don't know what the hell nutrient density is, and so we can't calibrate the camera on your phone to give you a reading. So what we need is the money to do the science work to define nutrient density, and then we're calling that basically a million US a crop. And maybe it's a little bit more than that, but it's in that ballpark. And so, yeah, we're not going to say this is good and bad, and this is 80 and 40 and 20 out of 100 until we've done the science. And you can't do the science without the money to do the science. And because we're not a company, we're running on donations. And so, you want to give us $5 a month or $10 a month or $100,000, go to bionutrient.org, because that's what it's taken. It's going to, until we have raised the money to do the science can't be done. Until the science is done, we can't have meters that are calibrated to quality. So, yeah, it's a cash issue.
Yeah.
It
What
could,
about
like I
all the
said,
information?
if we had $25 million crop, a $25 million check came in next week, I could have 25 crops done in 2 years. If I bring in a $500,000 in the next 2 years, I'll have nothing done. No further crops will be defined. It's not about time, it's about money. And it's got to be open, charitable donations. There's no way for someone to invest 5 million because we're not going to control the data. We're not going to hide the answer. It has to be donations. I'm not sure if I made that point, but
Yeah.
it's a yeah, sorry.
Well, what about the information that you have now? That database is huge. What other science do you need to prove this?
So there's a couple different things. The research we started in 2017 and went through 2021, 2022 was really to answer our first three questions, which is nutrient variation, does it exist? Because when we started this whole thing, we were like, we're pretty sure this is a big deal. And all the scientists were like, bullshit. So we're like, okay, well, we'll go check. And our thought was A, that nutrient variation was big, B, that it connected to soil health, and C, that you could build meters to test it. And so the database you're looking at is the millions of dollars we spent for the first 5 years to verify that, yes, nutrient variation is massive. It does connect to soil health, and you can build meters to test it. Once we got that basically done in 2021, we said, okay, great. So if these three things are true, then our vision of what's possible about how we could change the world is a viable vision. And um, so that's when we started on defining nutrient density crop by crop, which is a much more complex. Even though that database looks like it's got a bunch of data in it, it's nowhere near sophisticated enough for us to be able to say this is 80 out of 100, 60, 40, and 20 out of 100 for overall nutrient density. For polyphenols individually, or copper, or zinc, or sulfur, or antioxidants, sure, we think it probably is great. But individual nutrients is not nutrient density. It's a much more complex. Um, well, if you're going to say this steak is 80 out of 100 and this steak is 20 out of 100, you damn well better have some pretty good hard science to back you up. Because when you say that and you see most steak is 20, then you're going to have pushback, right? You're going to have pushback when you go out and you say your stuff is junky. Then you're going to have people who have a direct incentive in saying you're wrong. And so we have to make sure we've got rock solid science before we go out and make a claim like that. And yeah. Um,
Well,
anyway,
I really hope you get more funding, Dan, because you have gone further than I think anyone else has in this space. Um, it's like lifelong work for you, I guess. Did you say 18 years?
I did say 18 years.
That's amazing.
I
That's
think it was
amazing.
2007 or maybe it was 2008 when I created the word nutrient density, and 2010 when we founded the organization, and 2017 when we started doing the research. 2021 when we released the first sort of calibrated meter. Um, so it's been a when I was young, I was pretty sure there was something I wanted to do with myself, and I didn't know what it was. And it took me about 5 or 6 years of seriously questing to figure it out. And when I finally figured it out, I'm like, oh my god, look at this amazingly important thing which no one's doing. I want to do that. And so I have been putting my whole life into it ever since, pretty much.
It
Yeah.
doesn't come without challenges, Dan. You're in airports all the time. You're traveling. You're away from your family. How does your family feel about this?
Um, how do my family feel about this? You'd have to ask them.
Oh, I'm. Please don't answer it if you don't want to. I can cut that out.
No, it's I mean, everything's got stresses and strains and
Yeah,
struggles and benefits, and you can feel proud, and you can also you know have struggles as well. So
yeah.
um, yeah, we're all humans, and everything takes a toll, and has benefits as well. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm so appreciative of your work, Dan. Like I don't know how to communicate that, and you are such a gift to the world with everything that you're doing. I know you're on holidays with your family right now, so I don't want to hold you up. I want you to spend time with them. Um, Everything will be in the show notes, but again, your course, which is a part of all of this, because when this nutrient density is proven, you want to be that farmer that is already at the cutting edge, is already producing that high quality food.
yeah.
Um, yeah, where are you starting?
Um, well, so yeah, I think it's three courses in New Zealand that
Yeah,
start in the end of March. Um, one in the South Island and two in the North Island. And then I think there's either five or six in Australia that'll be running through April. I think the first one's in Western Australia, and then I believe it's Tasmania, and Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland,
Yeah.
uh, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on dankittredge.com. It's on the bionutrient.org, and they've got various social channels. If you look up either Bionutrient or Dan Kittredge, you'll should be able to find it. Yeah, and it's it's 2000 Australian for the course, 2000 New Zealand for the course, and scholarships are available for those who feel like they can't afford it. It is not just a 4-day course; it is a multi-year support structure process that you're engaging in. You're not just doing a 4-day course; you're doing a multi-year project with other people. Um, and and if we can't get 50 people to register for a course, we're not going to hold it. So it's if there's critical mass of desire, awesome, great, looking forward to it. If not, no problem. I can come back next year, or not. It's also fine. So um yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, it feels like it's time to do something serious like this. And after my tour down there in December to Australia, New Zealand, I left feeling like, you know what, dude, you know, what do they say? Should have got off the pot. Put up or shut up. Like, this is something that you've been talking about for a long time, and you aren't providing the process to empower people to actually strategically succeed, because it's really hard to do it by yourself. It really is a symbiotic process, and that's the model of nature, is like, together we can figure this out, but by ourselves we're not going to be able to. And so, like, build a structure, don't just talk about it, put a process in place. And this is the first time I'm trying to do it this way. And I'll do it in Northern Hemisphere starting in October and going into April or something like that, because we do fall and spring like that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I think it could really. I mean, imagine we had 1,000 people who completed this through the planet, or 2,000, and there could be local leaders everywhere in all countries who actually have these skills and have figured it out, and we got a critical mass of knowledge. I think that could benefit everybody really rapidly. I think that could be really, really helpful. So it shouldn't take that many people actually going through the process and openly sharing to be able to dial this thing in.
That group learning will be so powerful, and building that community that can then
Yeah,
go out and share. I think it's a brilliant course structure. Yeah.
thank you.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well, thank you very much, Dan. You have been wonderful giving me your time on your holiday.
my pleasure.
I really just am hopeful that this course is well attended. I don't think I'm even hopeful. I know it will be, because we are thirsty here in Australia for this information. And as you said, we're already at the cutting edge. So let's be the leaders. And
Well, you've already got a bunch of good people doing a bunch of good courses, and I think you're used to having the government pay for your courses too. So there's some crosswinds, which are a bunch of other good workshops out there, and this one costs money. Um, so we'll see. But I hope there's critical mass. You never
yeah,
know.
yeah, people will value it, Dan. They will. Yeah. So thank
Great.
you. Thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful holiday with your family.
Thank you very much.
Please follow the Biological Farming Roundtable podcast. Share it with your friends and networks. I'm Nikala Maddock, and I work at Nutrisoil, a liquid biological fertiliser made from a big worm farm whose purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food.